All right, everybody. Welcome to Tiger Talk Tuesday. Actually, this is a pretty special one because it's my first baseball athlete that I've had the chance of interviewing. So this is episode 33 for transitioning to life after sports. And we've got a special guest, pro player, former player, and now coach, Brad Robinson. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. So
Glad to
I'm
be
just
here.
going to give you, the listeners, a quick intro. I've also copy and pasted his bio when we post the interview, so you guys can read up there. But Brad is a mindset and mental skills coach and the founder of The Complete Athlete. Love the title of your business as well.
Thank you.
He uses a unique, holistic, people first approach to help athletes and coaches find it in themselves to be the absolute best version of themselves so they can experience long-term success on and off the field. Love that. Creating the complete athlete development programs for players, coaches, and parents has been a lifelong endeavor for Brad. Learning from personal experiences and pulling from 47 years of ups, downs, overcoming obstacles, injuries, and healing to ultimately living a life of consistent personal growth. Isn't that the truth, right? Always
Yeah.
learning. Everything Brad shares, he has experienced and uses in his own life. Brad's experience playing on the Canadian junior national team, the National Baseball Institute, college baseball in Long Beach, California. Love California. Western International League across Canada, the US, and ultimately a pro contract offer from the California Angels, which we will talk about,
Nice.
assist him in truly understanding the individual needs of the player. He also has had a successful career in the fire service for 18 years as a firefighter, lieutenant, and acting captain, giving Brad an unparalleled skill set in leadership and team dynamics, most notably the ability to understand group dynamics while building strategies for successful outcomes in extreme high pressure situations. So excited to hear what you've got to say. He's also owned a successful fitness business, and while in the fire service, he was an IAFF peer fitness trainer and health and wellness chairperson. He's got coaching experience. You guys can see it in the bio, and you can see who his partners and clients are with The Complete Athlete. But welcome, Brad, to the call.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
That's
what a
yeah, it's
bio.
oh wow, that's yeah.
That's
Yeah, it
awesome.
doesn't seem like that's me, but
I know. It's
yeah.
amazing how time passes and you're like, "Oh yeah, I
Oh,
did accomplish that, eh?"
how did I do all those things?
Well,
And
let's start there. Let's go back to the
yeah.
younger athlete. How did you get going in your field of sport? Were you always someone that was passionate about mindset? Talk to us about how you all got started.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. I baseball was I mean, I played all different sports, but played soccer, football, rugby, even
Yeah.
basketball player where I was the most improved player in grade 11, I think. So that was it wasn't my number one sport, but it was fun. I just like being active. But yeah, baseball was always my favorite thing.
Did you
I
have
was
people in your
always
family that were baseball players, or was it just something that you did?
no, it was just something that I did.
Yeah.
My mom was a single mom, so I basically had a lot of time, and I mean, I used to just be that kid that was out in the at the school behind the house, you throwing the lacrosse ball against the wall and like just doing stuff by myself. It was just me and my sister, so it was either I guess hang out with my sister or go throw the ball against the wall.
Sorry,
So
sister.
but yeah, no, I mean, we did hang out, but yeah,
I know.
definitely,
I'm
I
teasing.
just, yeah, it was just something that I was always passionate about. And, I was lucky enough, like I was a bigger kid too. I grew a lot up until I was about 15. And then, I grew a lot till I was 12 and then a little bit more till I was about 15. So I was a big kid. And so I did have some success younger. I threw hard and stuff like that, but I was big. Like, it just shows you too, like, athletes at 12 years old doesn't mean that you're going to excel at the same rate as you get older and stuff like that too. So it was, looking back, it's a really neat experience to take those things and to know, especially coaching now, right, and being on the
Yeah,
development side for players and that.
absolutely. And I mean, when we look at your playing career, Canadian Junior National Team, the National Baseball Institute,
Yeah.
college baseball, Long Beach, California, Western International League across Canada. A lot of the conversation that I have here is around, transitioning to life after sports,
Mm,
or, we talk a lot about transitions for athletes and
yeah.
even just changing teams and dynamics and all that stuff. What would you say were the biggest transitions that impacted you as a player?
Yeah. As a player, I guess, I mean, Yeah, like I know we talked about a little bit about the California Angels, and that was just one of the things that had the biggest impact on me was having that opportunity to with a professional contract, and then ultimately not signing that contract and going to school. Um,
Okay, we gotta just
yeah,
okay, let's repeat that so
I
everyone can hear
know.
that. So he was offered a pro contract from the California Angels
Yeah,
and you declined it.
yes.
Am I hearing that
So
correctly?
honestly, like it's incredible when I talk about it because I just like I'm like wow, it doesn't make any sense, but it does make sense now that I know what I know about, you know, psychology and the brain and all that stuff, and even like stuff like
Yeah.
childhood trauma and beliefs and values and all those things, right? That so yeah, I just I guess I had that opportunity. I was actually sitting in front of the scout, and his name's Orr Franchuk, and he's great. We still talk, like we're
Does
we
he like
still
does he
connect.
ask you
Yeah,
about it?
no, he's yeah, it's kind of past that for us, but we're sitting across, and it was like, okay, are you sure you want to do this? And yes. And he flew in from Edmonton, um basically all these at that time, all these things started going through my head, all this self-doubt, and it was like right at the
Mm,
last minute where it was like listening to all these people that were kind of influences in my life, coaches and people telling me things like people that I looked up to and saying, oh,
yeah.
you're too small, you won't like this, you won't like the bus trips, it's a real grind, it's all those things. And like those are the things that I wanted. I wanted nothing more in my life than to play professional baseball because I worked my whole life to get to that point.
Would you chalk it up to performance anxiety? Is that what I'm hearing? Or is it more just because, or it's just mindset? Obviously, you talk about self-doubt,
Yeah,
but
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's can be even like fear of success. Like if
mm,
I get this,
yeah,
what's next? Like this is what I've wanted my whole life. And and making so a couple of things that it has taught me. It taught me a lot, but and why I do what I do. One of the big driving factors is helping people make decisions out of strength and not
mm,
out of fear, right?
yeah.
And so even if the decision was to not sign a pro contract from a place of strength, because hey, I want to go to school, I want to get a degree, I want to do all these
Yep.
things, versus oh my god, like all these people are telling me this stuff, and I look up to them, they must be right, like they're my coaches, they're my mentors,
Like
and
owning the choice as versus,
right,
yeah.
yeah. And so instead of making it okay, well if I do that, then it's the safe thing to do, right? And yeah, I honestly I regretted it for most of my life, and until I was able to do a lot of healing later on as a firefighter, because a similar thing happened to me in the fire department where I ended up not being able to do my job anymore, or choosing to kind of okay, this I'm done, because I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And
Well, I mean, I couldn't
and then
imagine what you see in an 8-year career of being a firefighter. That's probably
yeah.
gonna, you know,
Yeah, and so that was like one of the day I went to work one day and then I never went back.
wow.
And so, again, it was like I was Brad the baseball player, and I never really, really flourished as much as I could have, and stopped playing baseball. And then I'm like, who am I? Like
Mm,
like if I'm not a baseball player, this is the only thing I've ever done, and now I don't know what to do. And I was
yeah.
kind of lost there like in my 20s, and until I got the fire service, and then it kind of happened again
I'm
where it
glad.
was
Can we stop right there? Because I'm glad you
yeah.
say it. For athletes that are tuning in, one thing that I always try to nail home is, and I've heard it from other athletes that have gone before, sports are what you do. They're not who you are. The
Mhm.
biggest thing in life after sports, the number one thing you really see the struggle with is the identity piece, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so normal when we know what we know about mindset and psychology, and it's a natural thing. But yeah, so
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that and
Yeah.
being open and honest about that. Because I think
Yeah.
sometimes people keep that quiet more than they want to let out, right?
Well, we lose our identity. Like we think we lose our
Yeah.
identity because we identify with what we're doing. Like
Yeah.
identity, the way
We
I
know how to
view
show
it is
up
like,
as an athlete. We know
yeah,
that. That's ingrained in us. We can
yeah,
do that in our sleep, right?
yeah. And it
Yeah.
was like Brad the baseball player, Brad the baseball player, or Brad the firefighter. And so when I don't have that anymore, it's like, and it wasn't like my choice in a sense. It's like, well, I mean, yes, it was a choice, but my point is that like I didn't do that anymore, and I identified with being the firefighter. And now what am I? Who am I? Versus now knowing that, hey, those are just the roles we play in our life. Who we are is our identity, is who we are at the core. The
Yeah.
roles we play in life are the things that we do. Or I like to say when I work with athletes, it's like those are the different hats that we put on. So
Yeah.
you're actually like, you're, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I'm, all these different things. Like I'm my job, I'm a mental performance coach, I'm a baseball coach, I do all those things, but
Yeah.
it's not who I am at the core, right? It's
Yeah.
part of me. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about it. It drives me. It's like, all those things, but it's not, who I am.
So if somebody was watching and listening and they're struggling with the identity piece, what would
Mm.
be the first thing that you did? Or what did you do? Or what would be the first thing that you would advise someone to do that's really struggling? They've left their field of choice, whether it be by injury, unforeseen
Yeah.
circumstance, or retirement. What would you say? What would be their first action piece to kind of navigate?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the big things, and it's really tough to do, is having that openness to let go of the past. Because that can be heavy, dragging that around with you, especially if you
Yeah.
have like regrets, or I wish I did this, I wish I did
Yeah.
that, and whatever it is. It doesn't mean that it's not important, but if we
Mhm.
drag it around with us, it's like in the fire department, we used to say we have a backpack on and we just keep filling it up with rocks. If we don't get rid of some of those rocks over time, it just keeps getting heavier and heavier and
Yeah.
heavier. And even though it was something you loved, it's still heavy because it's taking away your focus on the present, which is where life happens now. Is like the more
Yeah.
time we can spend in the present, right? So being open to learning how to let go of the past and being okay with it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it's not important, but letting go of that, because it can get heavy.
There's also a grieving process, don't you find? I
Yeah.
feel like athletes have to go through that little bit of that letting go piece. There is like give yourself some time to. I know when
Yeah.
I was talking with Chris Pronger from the NHL, he said he was advised to take a full year off before he
Yeah.
committed to doing anything else. Just take a full year off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what that does too is allows you to connect with yourself, right? Because when we're an athlete or when we're doing what we're doing, we're in it, and we don't
Yeah.
really take that downtime, right?
No.
It's like we're go 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 go
Yeah.
go go go, and once we get that chance for our body to like actually you know reconnect with itself, and we do have everything that we need inside us already to be successful. It's just we need to let ourselves do that and
And
connect with it.
And you know that now because this is the work
Yes.
that you do.
Yes.
Your younger self,
Mhm.
what would, if you could turn back and give your younger self some advice, again, putting yourself back in that space,
Mhm.
what would you, and of course, I'm sure you don't have any regrets because it's all you've grown the way you've
Yeah,
grown and you've
no, yeah,
created the complete athlete. And I get all that
yeah,
because even though everything I've been through, I'm grateful for it all.
yeah.
It's forced me to grow and learn, but is there something that you kind of really wish you knew then, though, in terms of from a learning and a mindset perspective based on what you know now?
um you know what, the biggest thing I would say is around beliefs and what you believe about yourself, and being true to that.
Yeah.
Our beliefs are formed when our core beliefs are formed when we're really young, like 0 to 7 years old. And I'm sure like so like, we know that stuff right
Yeah.
now, like,
Yeah.
and then, we start to, because we can't really think for ourselves in that. And then, then we start to create beliefs based on our other people that are in our lives and the things that we're doing, and all those things. And somewhere along the way, for whatever reason, whether it's some kind of trauma or
Yeah.
experience in your life, that it was like one thing. I remember, sorry, I'll just go off on a little tangent here, but
No, that's okay.
one thing that influenced me, and it can be this kind of simple, it doesn't sound really bad, but I had a teacher in grade 3, and I used to be the person that finished my work first all the time. Like I would finish my work, and I take it up to the front of the class, like, what else can you give me, something else, or like, what can I do, kind of thing. And there was one time, and the teacher goes, I brought my work up. A teacher goes, okay, class, everybody stand up. Let's give Brad a hand. He's finished his work. Good job, Brad. So, like, guess what I didn't want to ever do again? I never wanted to finish and be
Wow.
like in front of everyone. But that one
Interesting.
thing impacted me. Right. And
Wow.
so, like, you know, having that kind of, belief in myself, like, hey, if I do this, this is going to happen. Right.
It's
So all
crazy how
those,
quickly that can just get crushed in a
yeah,
small little human, right? And
yeah,
and we were talking about this when we were off camera, the power of our words and the intention behind what we say. And I mean, I even started my TED talk saying, we're given a million pieces of advice growing up, but we never really know what's going to stick. And I'm as passionate about words as you are.
yeah,
So what that meant for you, that's interesting.
yeah.
Hmm.
No, it's, just, but my point about the whole thing is your beliefs, right? And
Hmm.
what you believe about yourself affects the way that you talk to yourself, and the way
Of
that you
course.
talk to yourself affects your physiology and your behavior and all those things. So, like,
The
the
action or
more,
inaction you don't take, right?
right. So, yeah, beliefs are huge. They're, like, and I don't think we really think about them a lot until something happens. And, and then being able to break it down, like, what must I believe about myself
Yeah.
for this to be happening? But again, that's like, something that I work with players on,
Yep.
athletes, on when they are, having some challenges. But yeah, beliefs are huge. I wish I believed in myself a bit more, even though I
Yeah.
was having all that success. There was something
This
deep rooted.
Yeah, it's funny. This comes up a lot, like when I talk to parents or other people that even that aren't athletes are like, it blows my mind that they're this successful in their sport and some athletes still struggle. But my reply is, yeah, because we're all human.
Yeah.
We all lack confidence and belief if we don't nurture and cultivate it and make it a focus to do that development. I mean, that's where I'm very passionate about the neck
Mhm.
up, right? For athletes, as are
Yeah.
you, obviously, as a mindset and mental skills coach and the complete athlete. Again, I love the title of your
Yeah.
business. Um, what consistencies are you seeing when you're doing the work with athletes out there? Are you dealing with athletes that are currently in sport, or do you deal with anyone that's in life after sport doing transitions, or is it mostly the athletes now?
It is mostly athletes. Mostly working with players, different sports, golf and hockey and baseball, mostly baseball, but yeah, like other sports too.
Yeah.
The one place where that transition is, evident, and with my experience in the fire service, for firefighters and first responders, that
Excuse me.
I'm trying to get a little bit more work, doing some more work with that group, because that transition out of the fire service where you're, and some of the stuff that I've struggled with, like, we go from being, involved in life altering situations,
Yeah.
and then we're not, and we're like in this environment. That's one of the things that's really
Yeah.
changed my attitude about sports. Like, honestly, trying to, talk when I work with coaches, it's like, man, this is not life or death.
Yeah.
Like, we need to realize that, yes, it can be intense,
Yeah.
and we can, we need to push our players, and we need to understand our players and build relationships and all that. But man, this is not life or death. But unless you've experienced things, it's tough to understand, right? Like, every experience we
Or
have is
however
unique
they
to
were
us.
brought up and the way that they've
Exactly.
been, the environments have
Totally.
cultivated their mindset too. That's
Right.
interesting. I know you still see a lot of the suck it up,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's funny. This is a question that I love talking about because
Yeah.
I grew up with a father that was quite strict, and I really do love the coach that's right in my face and hard on me. Like when I
Hmm.
feel that, I tend to show up. It gets me into peak performance,
Hmm.
and I know, like being a great coach too, what drives each of your athletes, and
Hmm.
some of them they're better with different. But what would you, if I was a coach and
Hmm.
I was kind of a little bit more of a hard ass, what would
Yeah.
your advice be? Like, be hard but compassionate,
Yeah.
or what would you
I
say?
what I would say is, um, make sure that, a good, maybe something that you could look at is making sure that you're creating relationships with your players, so that what
Mm,
values your players have and what's important to them, because they're going to be motivated by their own values and what's important to them.
of
So
course.
some players might respond to that, and some players might need a hand, or an arm around the thing, a little bit more,
Yeah.
compassion. some might need a little push, some might need, not anything, but I think it's more about really truly getting to building relationship with your players, because coaching is not about us. It has nothing to it's
No.
about the players. So
Yeah.
building that relationship with your player, getting to know them so that what motivates them. Just because it motivates you does not mean it's going to motivate your players.
Yeah, no, that's very good advice. Means a lot. What was so for you,
Mhm.
after how long, what was the time frame between the California Angels and becoming a firefighter? Like what was that,
Mhm.
how long was that transition for you?
So probably, so I was man, I still ended up playing a little bit after that, in what us non-professional athletes call it semi-pro, right? And so kind of like the Will Ferrell semi-pro,
Yeah.
but I played that, played some baseball, some really good baseball, nothing, not, demeaning that. Got to travel all over the place, Alaska and all these different places. So that was
Very
kind of cool.
cool.
But probably, so, between about 6 or 7 years of,
Really?
yeah, kind of,
And that must have been a like going back on that plan, or were you ever reaching out to California and be like, okay, I'm ready now?
yeah.
Did that ever
Um,
happen in that time frame?
no, I think about it, but honestly, and a lot of time, I hear a lot of people talking about this, and really, I buried my head, knew that I did not make the decision that was according to my values and what I wanted. And, I started working, I worked in the bar, I was drinking, like just partying just to like,
Yeah.
just kind of forget about it and just like whatever, until, it was kind of like, okay, this is not what I want to be doing
Yeah.
anymore. And, got my stuff together.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, I was just kind of floundering around, and but that was a lot of time. And
Did you feel like you kind of had this like mental part of like you got tired of losing and then you discovered firefighting in terms of the standard that you created for yourself or that you wanted to be? And it was a little bit of
yeah,
like, hey man, all right, this is not who I am.
yeah,
This I'm not doing the things that I really am passionate about. Did you
yeah.
experience those feelings at all?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
The transition. What I liked about firefighting was that, hey, I'm not going to be a professional baseball player at this point anymore, but this is maybe like one of the closest things, like teamwork, camaraderie,
Yeah.
brotherhood, working together, all that stuff, like living together basically.
Yeah.
And that was
It's
really
like your
appealing to
locker
me.
room, right? In
Yeah,
the
exactly, like
yeah.
all that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
that's what was the physical part of the job. So like it fulfilled a lot of things. You
Yeah.
weren't competing, but you were still put into pressure situations where you had to be able to focus, and your
Yeah.
training take over so you can complete the task, right? So very similar to as athletes. And it's taught, like, honestly, the fire department really taught me a lot about how can we help athletes perform in those pressure situations,
Yeah.
letting our training take over, and focusing in the present moment, and all those things, right? Not letting all this, that big freaking orange glow above you,
Yeah. No, for sure.
when you got to go into this building or whatever it was.
What so I get these questions a lot about, some kids for performance anxiety or high pressure
Hmm.
situations. What is something that you teach someone and how they could better handle those situations? I mean, I've heard and spoken about, obviously firefighting, you simulate those situations by, you practice and you put pressure on yourself before the actual event. But do you recommend that to your athletes as well?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I was just having a conversation before we got on, and you know, it is about, I think a lot of times we just are telling our athletes what to do. Just breathe, just take a breath. Well, just taking a breath doesn't do anything. If I say take a breath, it's like like you see,
Yeah.
we have to, what is that going to do, and how do we do it so that it effectively allows me to calm my nervous system down and be able to focus in the present moment. But it is practice. It
Yeah.
honestly, we,
It's repetition. It's repetition,
it
right?
is, because our brain is going to default to what we do most.
Correct.
So if that's, yeah, I know how to do it, but this is what I've always done, then I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah.
I'm going to default, especially in a crisis, right? Or
Yeah.
like a high pressure situation. So the more, and we say it, I know, baseball's a little bit tougher to do, but hockey, I think, is a good, I think there's a good opportunity to train like you're playing in a game, like game like intensity.
Yep.
Whereas baseball, it's tough to mimic that. And I know it is in any sport really, but
Yeah. I mean, and you never know
um,
how things are going to go, but you can do your
yeah,
best. And yeah, I mean, we used to at UNH, I mean, sometimes we would practice, our coach would bring out the guys hockey team to put
yeah,
pressure on us.
yeah,
Right. And just to feel like when we knew we were going into a stronger team, just to feel what that felt like, or to have
yeah,
to be, quicker, keeping your head up. It's not to say that you can practice against other females, but I just mean they would bring out the
yeah,
men's team and we'd try to,
yeah,
it was a great learning experience. That's for sure.
yeah,
No, I love
mm,
that.
yeah,
I mean, there's obviously our mission with these conversations is to
yeah,
help those suffering in silence around the
yeah,
globe.
yeah.
What would be your, parting words to someone who is maybe sitting there quietly and they haven't shared what they're going through, or what would be your advice to them that you would want to make sure that they know at the end of this conversation?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, because I think that, there the our default is to hold it in, and like you said earlier, suck it up, and we start questioning ourselves maybe about, like, is this, like, am I, like, I don't want to bother anybody, or is this weird, or whatever it is. And um I think the biggest thing for me, and what helped me the most, was finding someone that, or at least one person that I felt like I could just talk to, and
Yeah.
be myself. And because it is tough to hold that stuff in.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I don't know how much you read about
Me
my
too.
stuff, but like, like, incredibly incredible to think that I went through that, and like, the post traumatic stress, which is anxiety and depression and all those things, and the effect on my marriage and my work and my life and my son and my
I
and
know. Takes you
the
from everything too, right?
it's being, I was actually, I was suicidal at one point, and it's like, man, that's on a side note.
Yeah.
We have created a foundation too, for that, as another little side, not a side project, but yeah, just finding a, someone who you feel comfortable with. And it's, and I know that there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's like, it's not weak to speak. I think that's like Michael Landsberg or somebody like that. But you know just
I like
hopefully you
that.
can have the strength, because it is a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness. It means you're human. What I used to
Mhm.
think is that I'm crazy, I can't get through this, and my brain is not working. Well, guess what? Your brain is working, and it's trying to protect you. And
Yeah.
that's why those things are happening. And so it's normal. It's normal. Whatever you feel, however you feel about anything, is normal for you. So if that's one message, that would be, that would be it. Just whatever you feel is normal for you, and it's a sign of strength to be able to stand up and talk to somebody about it. And it doesn't mean that you have a big problem,
Yeah.
but man, does it
I
feel
know.
good
As
to,
soon as you share it, though, sometimes people want to take it back, right? And then they regret sharing it. And it's like,
yeah.
but that's when you get sick holding that stuff in. And that's why that was the mission to even start this conversation, because
Mm,
we did lose some friends that
mm,
couldn't transition and they couldn't get out of that headspace. And it was like, we
yeah,
need to be talking about this, because
yeah,
if we're seeing it here, it's definitely happening all over. And I'm so grateful that you said yes to coming on,
Yeah.
and your life story is very remarkable, and I'm so
Oh,
glad that you're here with us today and you're helping. I mean, I truly believe with the billions of athletes around the globe, we need more light workers in the world. So,
yeah.
um, thank you for what you're doing in the community and for these athletes. And I've seen some people online comment about you, and
Yeah.
you're just a bright light, and
Oh,
we need more Brads in the world doing the
oh,
same
thank you.
work.
I'm
So
blushing.
thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us. I can't believe we're already on episode 33.
Yeah.
Transitioning to life after sport with Brad Robinson, our first ball player. So thank you so much for joining, and look forward to the next conversations coming up. We'll be in touch. If you guys want to contact Brad, he'll be linked on the conversation as well. So thank you so much, Brad.
All right. Thank you.